Anniversary trip, we need rent money. Those words came out of my dad's mouth with a sigh that felt rehearsed, like a line he'd said before to someone else. I froze, my phone pressed against my ear. My husband Ethan watching me from across the kitchen table. Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us where are you from and from which city you're watching our videos. And after watching the whole video, don't forget to tell us, what would you do in this situation? Be honest, tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin. His jaw tightened. Our bags were already half packed for the first vacation we'd managed to plan in 3 years. I swallowed hard. How much? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. 5,000, Dad said. Like it was nothing. Just until we catch up. You know, your mom and I wouldn't ask if it wasn't serious. We'll lose the apartment. Ethan shook his head sharply, mouthing, "Don't do this again." But the weight in my chest crushed me. They were my parents. How could I let them be homeless? I transferred the money that night. Ethan didn't argue, not out loud, but the silence between us was louder than any fight we'd ever had. 3 days later, my phone buzzed. I was in the grocery store, mindlessly comparing 2 different brands of cereal, when the notification popped up on social media. A photo of my mom and dad, sunglasses on, drinks in hand, sitting by an infinity pool. The caption burned my eyes. Living our best life in Cancun. Finally some time to ourselves. We deserve this. I nearly dropped the phone. Ethan found me sitting in the car in the parking lot, phone shaking in my hand. I turned the screen toward him. His face darkened instantly, his lips pressing into a line. They used our money, I whispered. My voice cracked. They lied. Ethan leaned back in the seat, his fists tightening against his thighs. We gave up our anniversary trip for this, for them. And they're sipping cocktails in Mexico? His laugh was sharp, bitter. Unbelievable. Something inside me broke. Not just anger, but a cold, hollow betrayal that spread through every vein in my body. I thought of all the times I had sacrificed, all the times I'd bent over backwards to prove I was a good daughter, worthy of love. That night, Ethan looked me dead in the eye. We're not letting this slide, Lily, not this time. You've let them walk over you your whole life. But now we're going to show them who we are. And for the first time, I didn't flinch at the idea of fighting back. I whispered, "Okay, let's do it." What happened next didn't just leave my parents speechless. It left the entire family stunned, their perfect little image shattered in ways they never saw coming. The night after we saw the Cancun photos, Ethan and I sat in our living room, the glow of the TV flickering across our untouched dinner. Neither of us could eat. My parents' smiling faces from those pictures burned into my mind like a cruel joke. $5,000, Ethan muttered, breaking the silence. That's not pocket change. That was our trip, our savings, our time together. And they... He stopped himself, his jaw clenched so hard I thought his teeth would crack. They knew exactly what they were doing, I whispered. My throat was raw. They looked me in the eye and lied. And the worst part? I didn't even hesitate. Ethan leaned forward, locking eyes with me. Lily, you've always been the one holding them up. Your dad pulls the strings, your mom plays innocent, and you pay the price. But enough is enough. If they want to play games with us, then fine. We'll make sure everyone sees the truth. His words lit a fire inside me. My whole life, I'd been the good daughter, the one who never said no, the one who bailed them out of every mess. But this time, something in me shifted. This wasn't just about money. This was about respect. That night, Ethan and I laid out a plan. The first step was simple: evidence. I scrolled through every photo, every post my parents had uploaded. My mom had tagged herself in luxury resorts, fine dining, spa treatments. My dad posted a photo of himself on a jet ski, writing, "Can't put a price on happiness." The irony nearly made me laugh. Ethan smirked as he pulled the photos into a folder. They just handed us everything we need. The second step? Timing. My parents loved to flaunt their struggles in front of the family. They had a way of painting themselves as victims while I was cast as the lucky daughter with a steady husband. At every gathering, it was the same guilt trip, the same subtle digs. But in 2 weeks, the family was gathering for my cousin's engagement dinner. Everyone would be there. Uncles, aunts, cousins, even my grandmother. My parents lived for moments like these, basking in sympathy while criticizing me behind polite smiles. Ethan's hand brushed mine. That's when we do it. The next 2 weeks, I pretended everything was normal. My parents texted occasionally, asking if Ethan and I were doing okay, their words dripping with fake concern. I gave short replies, my stomach turning with every message. They had no idea we knew. Finally, the night of the dinner came. The restaurant buzzed with chatter and clinking glasses as relatives filled the long table. My parents walked in late, as always. Diane's hand looped through Richard's arm. They wore matching tans, designer clothes I'd never seen before. My mom gave me a pointed smile, the kind that said, "We're thriving, and you're still the fool who paid for it." Halfway through the meal, my dad cleared his throat dramatically, the way he always did before giving one of his updates. "Things have been tough," he began, sighing heavily. "We almost lost the apartment last month, but thankfully Lily and Ethan stepped in." Gasps rippled around the table. My mom dabbed at her eyes with a napkin, putting on her performance. "We're just so blessed to have children who care." My fist tightened under the table. My parents sat there, pretending to be victims, while their tans practically glowed under the restaurant lights. Ethan's voice cut through the noise, steady and sharp. "That's interesting," he said. The table went silent. All eyes turned toward him. My dad frowned. "What do you mean?" Ethan leaned back casually, pulling his phone from his pocket. "Because when you say tough, I can't help but wonder. Does Cancun count as tough?" He slid the phone across the table. On the screen glowed a slideshow of their vacation photos. My mother's face drained of color. My father's fork clattered against his plate. The room erupted. Aunts and uncles whispered harshly. Cousins exchanged wide-eyed stares. My grandmother leaned closer to the screen, her lips trembling. My mom stammered, That was a gift." "A surprise trip? Paid for with our money," I interrupted, my voice stronger than I thought it could be. "You begged us to cancel our anniversary trip, swore you couldn't make rent, and then you turned around and did this." My dad's face twisted. "Lily, lower your voice." "No," I said, standing. My hands shook, but I didn't back down. "I've spent my whole life covering for you, defending you, giving you everything I had. But tonight I'm done. Everyone deserves to know the truth. You didn't need help. You used us. You lied to your own daughter." Silence. Heavy. Suffocating. Ethan stood beside me, his arm brushing mine in quiet support. "We're not your safety net anymore," he added coldly. My mom's lips trembled, searching for words. My dad's face flushed deep red. But it was too late. The family had seen it all, and for the first time, I felt the weight I'd carried my whole life begin to lift. But Ethan wasn't done yet. He had one more card to play, one that would silence the entire table, and leave my parents utterly exposed. The restaurant was frozen in shock. Forks hovered midair, glasses untouched. My parents' tans and expensive outfits suddenly felt like costumes stripped of their power under the fluorescent lights. My father cleared his throat, trying to recover his authority. "You don't understand? Things aren't what they seem." Ethan didn't even let him finish. He tapped his phone again, sliding it further down the table. "Not what they seem. Then explain this." Another photo filled the screen. My mom holding a champagne glass, laughing at a private dinner overlooking the ocean. The caption read, "Finally free from stress." Gasps filled the air. My Aunt Marianne muttered, "Free from stress? They told us they were drowning in bills." The whispers grew louder, like waves crashing against my parents' carefully built facade. My mom's face went pale, her lips trembling as she tried to smile. We were invited." "It wasn't like that." I cut her off. "Stop lying. You begged us for money, said you'd lose your home. And the second we gave it to you, You used it to live like royalty while we sat at home with canceled bags. Canceled plans and nothing but your excuses. The words came out sharp, steady, fueled by years of swallowed resentment. My hands trembled, but not from fear, from release. My grandmother, who rarely spoke above a whisper, suddenly pushed back her chair. Her voice shook but carried a surprising force. "Richard, Diane, is this true? Did you take her money for this trip?" My father's jaw worked, his pride battling the truth. We deserved a break. After everything we've been through, is it so wrong to finally live a little? The room erupted. Cousins rolled their eyes. Uncles muttered under their breath. The sympathy my parents usually commanded had flipped into disdain, but Ethan wasn't done. He reached into his jacket pocket, pulling out a folded envelope. His movements were deliberate, his eyes locked on my father's. "You want to talk about what you deserve?" His voice was calm, almost too calm. "Let's talk about what Lily deserves." He opened the envelope and pulled out a series of printouts, bank statements. My heart skipped. "While we were wiring you money," Ethan said, spreading the papers across the table, "you two had plenty of funds stashed away. Casino withdrawals, shopping sprees, luxury flights. This wasn't survival, it was greed. It was manipulation." My father lunged forward, grabbing at the papers, but Ethan was faster. He slapped his hand down on them, pinning them to the table. His eyes burned with a quiet fury I had never seen before. "You've treated Lily like a bottomless well," he said, voice low but deadly clear. "Every time you run dry, you knock on her door and she gives until she's empty. But not anymore. Not while I'm here." The table was silent, the weight of his words filling every corner of the room. My mother's eyes welled with tears. But even then I could see it. Those weren't tears of regret. They were tears of being caught. I took a deep breath and finally let it all out. "You've used me my entire life. Every sacrifice I made, every time I put you first, it was never enough. And when I thought, just for once, you actually needed me, you turned it into another game. I'm done being your pawn." My voice cracked on the last word, but I didn't care. The truth was out. Ethan placed a hand gently on my shoulder, grounding me. Then he faced the room. "We'll no longer be financing their lies, and I think it's time everyone else here knows the truth before they get pulled into the same cycle." The relatives shifted uncomfortably, some nodding in agreement. My aunt whispered, "We gave them money too." Another cousin admitted, "Same here." One by one, voices rose, confessions stacking like stones on my parents' shoulders. The empire of sympathy my parents had built crumbled in seconds. My dad's voice rose, desperate, cracking under the pressure. "You're making us look like criminals in front of our own family." Ethan leaned forward, his tone icy. "You didn't need my help for that. You did it yourselves." The silence that followed was suffocating. My parents sat there cornered, humiliated. Their lies were naked now, exposed for everyone to see. I could feel my chest rising and falling, adrenaline pumping, but underneath it all, there was relief. Relief that after years of bending, breaking, and sacrificing, I was finally standing tall. But the night wasn't over. Ethan had one final surprise, a move that would take everything we'd revealed and twist it into something even more undeniable. Something no one at that table would ever forget. And when he revealed it, the entire restaurant went silent. The air inside the restaurant felt electric, every eye locked on my parents. Their act was over and they knew it. But Ethan wasn't finished. He leaned back slowly, slid a hand into his jacket, and pulled out one more envelope. "This," he said calmly, "is the last piece of the puzzle." My mother's hands clutched her napkin so tightly her knuckles whitened. My father's eyes narrowed, suspicion and fear flickering across his face. "What is that?" Dad barked, his voice breaking. Ethan's tone never wavered. "Receipts. From the travel agency. The same one you booked your Cancun getaway through, using our $5,000. I had the payment traced." Gasps rippled through the table again. Ethan placed the receipt in front of my grandmother, sliding it carefully across the linen tablecloth. She adjusted her glasses, read the paper, and her lips tightened. "It's true. she said, her voice sharp as a knife. You used their money. The weight of her words was heavier than anything Ethan or I could have said. My grandmother's approval meant everything to this family. And now? Her disappointment was deafening. My father's face turned beet red, his jaw trembling as if he could still spin the story. We planned to pay it back. I cut him off. With what? Another lie? Another guilt trip? My voice didn't shake this time. It came out strong, firm, almost like someone else was speaking through me. You never planned to pay us back. You planned to use us. Again. Like always. The table buzzed with whispers. Cousins shaking their heads. Uncles muttering. Unbelievable. The shame in the room pressed against my parents until they shrank in their chairs, and then Ethan delivered the final blow. He stood, his presence commanding, and looked directly at my parents. We canceled our anniversary trip because of you. You robbed us of time, of peace, of joy, but Lily and I decided something after we saw those photos. I looked at him, my heart pounding. He'd kept this part a secret even from me. Ethan's eyes softened when he looked at me, then hardened as he turned back to my parents. We booked another trip. A bigger one. A better one. Paid for in full, by us. And this time, when we post photos, the whole family will know the truth. That our happiness doesn't depend on lies, or manipulation, or using other people. It comes from the life we've built together. A stunned silence filled the room. I blinked, realization hitting me like a wave. Ethan wasn't just confronting them. He was reclaiming what they tried to steal. Our anniversary trip, our joy, our dignity? My mom's lips parted, her voice small. You wouldn't dare, Ethan smirked. Watch us. The relatives erupted, not in gasps this time, but in applause. My grandmother even stood, her frail hands clapping together as she looked at me with tears in her eyes. That's my granddaughter, she said. That's strength. My father tried to rise, tried to shout, but the noise drowned him out. For once, his voice meant nothing. He and my mother sat trapped in their own silence, their power gone. I turned to them one last time. We're done being your safety net. We're done living under the shadow of your lies. From this moment on, you don't get to use me. Not for money. Not for sympathy. Not for anything. The finality in my voice echoed in the air, final and absolute. Ethan wrapped his arm around me, guiding me away from the table. As we walked out, I could still hear the murmurs behind us, the judgment, the disbelief aimed squarely at my parents. And for once, none of it was aimed at me. Outside, the cool night air hit my skin. I inhaled deeply, the weight on my chest finally lifting. Ethan turned to me, his eyes soft again. You okay? I nodded slowly, tears brimming, but not from pain, from release. For the first time in my life. Yeah, I am, he smiled, pressing a kiss to my forehead. Good, because our flight's in 2 days. And this time, we're not canceling for anyone. A laugh bubbled out of me, raw and real. After everything, after years of being the daughter who gave and gave until there was nothing left, I finally chose myself. I finally chose us. And when the photos of Ethan and me, smiling against the backdrop of clear blue oceans, hit the family group chat a week later, the silence from my parents was deafening. They didn't post. They didn't comment. They didn't dare, because this time the story wasn't theirs to spin.